I think there'll be very little crosstalk. If we're talking loudly, we will be on each other's mics.
Yeah, but I think the other side of it is because we're in the same room, we can watch each other a lot more to make sure that we're not.
If we're laughing over each other, it'll be harder.
Well. Just don't laugh.
I think it'll work.
I mean, the other option is I go sit over there in the other corner of the room.
Nah, but then we'd have to have like a FaceTime call to connect us.
Yeah.
That's not worth it.
Not worth it at all, I think.
I think it's worth the try.
Yeah. I mean, what could it hurt?
For the 2 or 3 collisions we're going to get, it's probably worth it. I think the hardest thing is holding still.
Yeah, especially because what you don't get to see most of the time is how much I talk with my hands.
Yeah. Yeah, the hardest thing will be holding still.
What are you talking about? I mean, just because I talk like this all the time?
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't do it. We're going to hear it. Plant your elbow and keep it there.
All right. That's kind of what I've done. I mean, that's what this is for.
Welcome to My Hill to Die On, episode 68. Wait. Actually, this is episode 70. But we recorded this intending for it to be episode 68. Please join us as we travel back in time before our year wrap-up. Welcome to My Hill to Die On, episode 70.
Everyone has things they're passionate about.
Things we want our friends to try and experience.
So we convince each other to try different things.
And we talk about these experiences to see if we can get just one more person
to join us on our hill to die on. We probably should talk about the elephant in the room.
Yes, sure. Mm-hmm.
The fact that we probably sound different.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to sound different.
Well, if we don't sound different, feel free to cut that part.
We might. People probably can. Whenever I hear people in podcasts say, oh, they sound different, I am not the one to say they sound different. I can't ever tell, probably because I just don't remember specifically how they sounded before. I think you and I, I'd be able to tell that we sound different.
But that's because we listen to ourselves a lot.
I know. That's because we listen to ourselves a lot. So yeah, I might be able to tell. But even still, even if I can't tell, I bet you somebody else probably can.
So we are recording this in the middle of a conference that we are at.
Mm-hmm. Face-to-face.
Face-to-face.
This is the first time we're recording face-to-face.
Yes, he can see all of my reactions as I start to doze off. Or as he starts to doze off.
Right. Which could happen any moment now.
Yes, because we woke up at a very early point in the day so that we could come down to this conference. We are at a conference in Okinawa right now.
So I was able to get Ryan on a plane. That's the big news. We got Ryan on a plane.
Hey, you can get me on planes anytime. It's just how comfortable will you be sitting next to me on those planes is a different question altogether.
You seem to do pretty well today.
Yeah, there was very little turbulence today.
Yeah. There was some, but it wasn't too bad.
Yeah. You saw me when there was the turbulence, right?
I didn't look over, I guess.
Oh, apparently one of our coworkers did and noticed me.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't quite so bad. There was lots of tensing and clenching my fists and unclenching, but, I survived. And we are down at a lovely conference and, like I said, recording this face-to-face for the first time. So if there's anything bad about this episode, blame it on that.
Don't blame it on the edit, please. The edit will probably be hard. Mm-hmm. All right, Ryan.
Yeah?
So you've completed another nature excursion, huh?
Yeah. Has it really been that long since we recorded?
It's been that long since we recorded. The last time we actually recorded a podcast like this was September 10. So it's been 2 whole months. So yeah, actually even the last recorded before you left on the trip.
Yeah, I survived wilderness camp. I am only dealing with some minor aches and pains left over because of some small injuries, but I think my win ratio is getting higher.
You've successfully completed another camp.
What are they going to do when I have more successes. Actually, no, now I have more
You
successes.
have more successes than failures. Yep.
So, I mean, everybody can't keep believing that I'm going to fail every single time now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
No, it was good. Now, it was an interesting year. We did have some of the worst weather that I have ever experienced on our nature excursion.
It's been the worst weather I think that you've experienced. I think my first trip, we had typhoon.
So I've gone for 5 years. Year 1 was stomach flu. Year 2 was
Broken ankle.
broke my foot. Year 3, 4, and 5, success.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So anyway, of the many years that I have gone on this trip, this was the absolute worst weather we've ever been on. So every year prior to this, I have had mostly pleasant weather. Occasionally it'll drizzle a little bit. This year, day 1 was pretty normal, but on day 2, it started raining. And it didn't stop raining for like 48 straight hours. So even the people who had really good rain gear like I did, because the rain gear I had was a little bit more breathable so that, I didn't roast on top of a mountain, after 24, 32 hours, it had gotten to the point where it could no longer keep out the rain. I was soaked down to my base layer. And that would be fine. Except it was also the coldest it's been in Tokyo in a long, long time. At least, let me rephrase that, the coldest it's gotten in Tokyo at this point in the year.
Right, during that week.
Mm-hmm. I think they said this was the coldest it's been in 50 years?
Oh, maybe I didn't hear that, but that's possible.
It was some obnoxious number. Regardless, we were on the top of the mountain. It had been raining, so I'm wet all the way down to my base layer. The other adults are wet. One of them wasn't quite as wet as everybody else, but that's because he's basically Boy Scout leader extraordinaire. But every single one of the students on our trip completely soaked. So, every student is soaked. They have no dry clothes. Some of their sleeping bags are wet. And we get a call, actually from you, saying, hey, I think it's going to be about 7 degrees Celsius. So we're looking at about 44, 45 degrees on top of a mountain where everybody is soaking wet. And the sun was starting to go down. I was genuinely afraid for some of my students' health and safety at this point. I thought that some of my kids might actually freeze. So we, in our eternal wisdom, said, maybe we shouldn't risk our students' lives. And so we evacuated. We left our position and we climbed down the mountain. Unfortunately, it was a little late, so we had to finish the last hour and a half of our climb in the dark, which was dangerous in its own right, but probably less dangerous than it would have been if we had stayed. So it was dark by the time we got there, and I want to say it was probably about the last hour of our hike was in pitch dark. But long story short, we made it down, we escaped. We evacuated.
Escaped the outdoors. Get us out of here.
We escaped the outdoors. We got back to the place that we all meet up on our final day. We were able to get warm, get into dry clothes, and have a nice warm meal. And that was pretty much where we ended. But, it was an interesting trip. And I think the thing that I will always take away from this group is the fact that the students in my group really supported each other throughout this entire trip.
Yeah, I think you had a good group.
I had an amazing group of students who really cared for each other and supported each other throughout the whole thing. And when the times got really rough, and they got rough, they were there together and they were supporting each other and they would help carry each other's burdens. And so really, I had a good group who really was super supportive, and I would not have done this trip with any other group. I'm so glad to have them.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing. So, being the home-based person again this year, it's not a bad job, but I was following the weather. Of the 5 groups that were out, there was another group that was in very little shelter who I had called that morning and said, no, you guys have to come in. I told them specifically they had to come in. Your group had the second least shelter. I mean, you had some shelter, not protecting against the cold, really.
We had a shack.
Yes. It has a roof and
walls
that go halfway up most of the way around the building. So it's a shelter, yes, but it's not going to keep you warm.
No.
It might have kept you dry if it was heavily raining, but, that's also an if. And the other 3 groups were going to be in cabins. So I was not worried about those 3 groups. In fact, later I learned that one of the cabins had a wood stove in it. I had never been to that cabin, so I didn't know that, but that was a nice feature for them.
Yeah, except that cabin is also next to, like, the creepiest building on any of the hikes.
Yeah. That is true. Mm-hmm. I've heard that. I've seen pictures. I've not ever been there, but one of the groups that was going to be in a shelter called me up and said that they had a mishap with a sleeping bag that rolled down the mountain, and they were not going to retrieve it. So, which is a wise choice. Dangerous. The way the sleeping bag went down the mountain, you wouldn't want to send a person down the mountain to get it.
We're talking, to get that sleeping bag, somebody would have had to pull a Wesley from Princess Bride.
Oh, yeah. As you wish, all the way down the hill. So they said, can you bring us a sleeping bag? So I said, sure. So we drove out to bring the sleeping bag. So we were with them. We brought them over to get the sleeping bag. They stopped and ate lunch while we were packing that up. In the end, the group could not get going fast enough to make it to their shelter. So even though they were going to have a nice warm shelter, they didn't make it out there. And while, yes, we delayed them because we showed up and, there was something interesting to do. There's people we can visit with and talk to and stand under the shelter of the van. While, yes, we delayed the group, they had some other issues that also caused them not to make it out. Yes, we delayed them, and I'm sure we contributed, but the leader of that group, who is the leader of our whole nature excursion, he's gung-ho, and he was trying, but he knew that on the best of days, a group would take 4 hours to finish the hike they were looking to finish. And if they can't leave by 2, they can't make it out. That's 4 hours on a good day, and as you said, that day was already rainy, and they were already having health issues that were just unavoidable, not anybody's fault, just unavoidable. So yeah, they couldn't get going. And yes, we delayed them maybe half an hour. They would have had to have stopped for lunch anyway. But we maybe made that last 15 to 30 minutes longer because they were able to stand under the shelter of the van. But in the end, they weren't going to make it from where they were eating lunch with us. Between 1:30 and 2, we made the calls like, yeah, you're not going to be able to get started by 2, therefore we got to bring you in. So we brought that group in. And, I drove I didn't drive. I had one of our guys drive one of the big vans out there, one of our maintenance workers. Because if we did have to rescue a team, we wanted a van that was going to be big enough to hold the whole team.
Yeah.
Because we were talking, maybe we'll bring 1 or 2 people in. Maybe we won't bring anybody in. We just need a sleeping bag. Can you get the sleeping bag out here? But I was like, you know what? If we're driving all the way out there, we might as well bring the biggest van. And I'm glad we did because, we used it to bring that group in. Then when we got back to base, the other group that I had called in the morning hadn't yet arrived, which was worrying me.
Was that my group?
No. The group that I told to come in.
Oh, okay.
In the morning. They hadn't come in. But then I was able to get in contact with you guys and said, no, we should bring you guys in. You guys concurred. And then so we went as far up the mountain as we could get to you, but not, it helped. But you still had to hike it for an hour and a half. And then by the time we got back to base after dropping you guys off, that other group that I had called in the morning had finally arrived. And by that point, too, I had heard from the other 3 groups that were still in the mountains that they were safe and warm. So then I sent an email out to all the parents saying that everyone's safe and warm. No need to worry. Everyone's going to be fine. So that was good. I think it worked out fine. It's the first time we've had to evacuate like that. Back in 2009, I had to evacuate groups and tell them to go straight home because the typhoon was coming. And we decided to go home that year. I don't know why we didn't bring them to base, but that year we decided to send them home. Probably because we evacuated all the groups. And this year evacuating 3 groups did eat up almost all of the lodging at the base. So yeah, we evacuated all the groups the year of that typhoon.
Well, it ate up all the lodging, especially because we were trying to keep
socially distant. That's true. It's true. Yeah, so 2009 was the last time we evacuated anyone as a group. Any groups, we evacuated individuals, like your ankle. Oh, no, I mean like you're sick, your flu sickness.
That was the year where I had the flu, yes.
And the time before that, when I hiked in 2004, this is before cell phones could get anywhere into the mountains and way before we had sat phones. In 2004, there was a typhoon that passed over while we were all hiking out there. And there was no recourse. They couldn't contact us. We knew it was raining. We didn't know it was a typhoon, but it was a typhoon. And they must have known it was a typhoon before we started because that's in the prediction. Anyway, it was a typhoon, and it rained the first 2 days heavily the whole time. But the group I happened to be in the route that had cabins. So while, yes, it rained the whole time, while we were hiking, it just cooled us off. And then we stayed in cabins nice and warm. So, yeah, it was not comfortable, but it was also not terrible. And the last day, when the rain cleared up, because it had rained the first 2 days, and then the last day, all the clouds had blown away, and it was gorgeous. The weather after a typhoon is just amazing. Mm-hmm. So it was real nice anyway. So that was 2004.
So what you're saying is you really wish you had gone on this trip this year.
Yeah, no. I enjoyed my part in rescuing you guys in the last day, but I love the trip. I wouldn't mind going again, but I have other priorities during these months. Yep, good. You made it.
Yep, I survived. I could do a game corner.
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's do that.
All right.
Because I always play Disco Zoo while you talk about your games.
Seriously?
I don't always play it, but still, sometimes.
It's fine. I don't blame you because, quite honestly, I understand fully that it's not something that you are terribly interested in.
I have to tell you, in my Disco Zoo,
oh no,
I have now earned all of the diamond trophies in my third round of going. So now I decided that
you're going to find a new game to play.
Well, no, when you reset the game to play again, so I can play the fourth time through,
yeah,
you lose all your coins. So this time, by accident, I garnered 40 million coins. I didn't mean to do it. It just happens because when you're into the upper levels, all the money just keeps coming in. Because when you rescue animals anyway, you just get a lot of money and you can't do anything with it. In fact, I stopped waking up my animals long ago because I just don't want any more money. So now I'm up to the point where I want to spend all my coins to buy moon coins. And the way you do that is through rescuing animals and then, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it's a process. It's annoying. So I'm down to 30 million coins now. It took me a long time to get there. I was at 0 moon coins because I had used all of them to finish off the rescue of the things for the diamond trophies. Mm-hmm. And now I'm at 35,000 moon coins. So it looks like every 10 million coins, I can earn about 40,000 moon coins, which is a lot and is going to take me a long time to convert to moon coins. Last time I finished a round through this game, I earned 50,000 moon coins before resetting.
Now, I'm just going to ask a really important and...
Yeah, because I didn't explain.
Yeah. What's the purpose in having moon coins?
Wait, should we have Game Corner about Disco Zoo, finally?
Oh, gosh.
Should I start again and explain from the beginning what Disco Zoo is?
Oh, I think I understand the Disco Zoo. I just want to know what's the purpose of moon coins.
So, regular coins you use to buy rescues of Earth animals.
Yes.
Moon coins you have to spend to rescue...
moon animals.
Mars or moon animals. Moon or Mars animals.
Okay.
Now, besides paying in to get moon coins, which I refuse to do...
Yeah, that seems reasonable, because you've already dedicated a number of hours of your life to this game.
Right. I don't spend any real money in this game. The only real money I've spent in this game was to buy the animal patterns. Because when you're rescuing these animals, which is what zoos do, right? They rescue animals from their natural habitat and bring them into enclosed spaces.
Oh, is that like when museums rescue artifacts from other countries?
Exactly, like that kind of rescuing. Rescue, in large quotes. You search for animals, and at the beginning you kind of have to guess their patterns. But if you buy the guidebook for $3, then you immediately know all of the patterns of all of the animals.
Okay.
So now that I've played this game so often, I have it memorized. But the first few times I was playing, it was hard to memorize all of the patterns of the animals. So I bought the guidebook for $3 way early on because I decided, you know what, I obviously like this game. I'm going to be playing it. So I bought the guidebook.
And he's played it for 7 years since.
It doesn't say the number of hours. Well, really, I have played it for 13 years because I played it when my daughter was born. Have I had an iPhone for 13 years?
Probably.
Okay, that's a scary thought. Okay, I don't know if I had this when my first daughter. I know I was playing it when one of my daughters was born because I would play with it while trying to rock her to sleep. Great one-handed game. But I do wish it told you how many hours you've played. It does not tell you how many hours you've played. Anyway, lots of hours. So yes, to get moon coins by not paying for them, you have to rescue the animals with real coins that the other planets are requesting. So again, you're stretching your imagination here. If Uranus had a zoo, or Saturn has a zoo, or Jupiter has a zoo, they need Earth animals on their zoos. So they're requesting me to send them Earth animals. So I rescue Earth animals, and then I go to the space requests thing, and I see that Jupiter wants some beavers. So then I give them some beavers, and they give me some moon coins for those beavers. It's a process.
I'm just wondering, what are beavers doing on a gas giant?
You don't ask those questions in this game.
I mean, I don't think Jupiter has a surface.
No, they don't. They don't. Yeah, you don't ask those questions.
I mean, it has the great hexagon, but that's just gas.
And the question I have is, I went with my moon coins and rescued animals from Moon and Mars, and Moon and Mars are requesting Earth animals for me. Why aren't they stealing them like I stole them from their planet? But anyway, don't ask those questions. They make no sense. But in my zoo, I mean, again, if you really want to stretch the what's going on in this zoo, I mean, I have sewer turtles as one of my animals. I have dragons from the Jurassic period.
Whoa. Dragons from the Jurassic period?
I've rescued my dragons from the Jurassic period.
I hate to say this, but I don't think dragons were around in the Jurassic period.
No, they were in the Middle Ages, but anyway, that's another story. King Arthur and all them people fought dragons. Anyway, I've got Yetis. I've got Sasquatches.
I didn't know cryptids were animals to be rescued for a zoo.
Yeah, hey.
Again, rescued.
Rescued, right. I rescued these animals. I have freed them from their natural habitats. Anyway, again, don't ask too many questions. To me, the logic of figuring the patterns in the puzzles is the best part. But it's going to take me a while to whittle down this 30 million coins. I don't even think I'll finish by next time we record.
And the question, again, how to phrase this. Why are you converting all your coins to moon coins before you...
Before I reset? Because I can keep my moon coins.
Oh, you keep the moon coins.
Through the reset. So I have calculated that it takes about 150 moon coins in a round of game. One of the reasons why I have so many coins is because I probably wasn't... I would earn 50,000 moon coins, then I'd spend them, then I'd earn another 50,000 moon coins, then I'd spend them, and then I'd earn another... So I earned about 50,000 moon coins 3 times. So that's why I think it takes about 150,000 moon coins to win one round of the game. But because I did it that way, and because I would spend 50,000 moon coins in one shot, you actually earn coins through that process. You earn real coins through that process. Anyway, it's a bit confusing. So that's how my coin hoard blew up more than I wanted it to. I think the last time I played, I didn't get above 20 million coins. If I want to keep all of what I've earned, it's a pain in the neck. My daughters have fun because I have so many animals. They like to go to my phone and wake up all my animals because I have way more animals than they do. But this time, my middle daughter came to me like, Dad, I want to wake up all your animals. I'm like, no, don't do that. I don't want to earn any. Because every time I wake up more animals, I earn 300,000 more coins. And I'm like, no, I don't want to earn those 300,000 more coins. I don't want to do it.
I now know more about the Disco Zoo than I ever thought I would.
The pattern matching thing is the thing that I like the best. Except for the fact that I earned way too many gold coins. I played this game the most efficient way possible. I got to getting all the animals as fast as I possibly could. Now that I've learned a few strategies on that. But I earned way too many coins. Too many gold coins.
I really wish that I knew a better pattern matching game that I could suggest to you. Just so you could vary things up. Change things up. Maybe one day you talk about something that's not...
Well, this company makes a few other ones that are similar, actually. My second favorite game that they made probably is Pocket Planes, where you are an airline manager for a fleet of planes.
Okay.
And you receive requests from passengers, and you start expanding your airports and flying planes. So you can choose your starting airport. So I did start in Tokyo one time, and then start with little planes ferrying 3 passengers at a time, something like that.
That seems terribly inefficient.
It works out at the time. Man, I don't even know if I still have it. Oh, right. I did expand pretty far. I got to London.
Mm.
Yes, that's right. You have to earn enough money to buy airports in certain destinations. And you can pick up passengers in London. And if you gauge your stops properly, you can make it halfway across the world. It's been a long time since I played this game.
Mm.
But that was a fun one, too. It's a similar logic type puzzles. It's not as much patterns that one, but it's more logic. Like, how can you get passengers from here to here? What do you want to spend money on? Do you want to spend it on more airplanes or more airports or faster airplanes? Things like that. Anyway, it's fun. Anyway, sorry. Now it's time for Game Corner number 2.
I was just going to talk about Divinity Original Sin 2.
Okay.
So I mentioned back in episode 21, Divinity Original Sin, which is a very fun RPG, but me and one of our coworkers have regularly been meeting up and playing some co-op games just for fun. And so for this game, we decided that we wanted to play something a little bit more crunchy, a little bit more of an RPG, something like D&D. And so we decided to play Divinity Original Sin 2. So first of all, it's a really interesting game, really fun story. I'm not going to talk too much about the story because we actually just recently started playing through the story, and also I don't want to spoil anything. But the thing that I really like about the game is the fact that, first of all, you get to create whichever character you want. So our coworker made a fighter character who can wade in and hit things with swords really well, although they are considering respecing it into an archer. I chose to make an undead wizard.
Okay.
So what it means is, in this game, I am actually a skeleton who is able to cast spells. It's very fun because in this game, you can play as a skeleton, which has certain advantages and disadvantages. So for advantages...
You can be cold. You don't have to wear clothes.
So for advantages, actually, your finger doubles as a lockpick, so you never have to carry lockpicks with you. Poison heals you. So if you ever get poisoned or step in poison, you are instead healed rather than hurt. For disadvantages, healing hurts you. So if people cast healing spells or you drink a healing potion, you will instead be hurt. And of course, because people don't tend to like to look at the undead, if I ever take off my hat or my mask or my helmet, whatever I'm wearing on the top of my face, if I ever do that in a city or a public area, everyone in town will attack me. Because apparently they don't like to see skeletons. Although my skeleton has a very fancy mustache.
How does it stay there?
I don't know, but it's kind of wonderful.
Again, you don't ask questions.
I don't ask questions, but it's kind of wonderful to have a skeleton with a mustache. He looks very dapper and dandy.
Does it curl on the end?
It does curl on the end, actually.
Oh, man.
That's why I chose that mustache. Anyway, one of the things that I do love about this game, though, is I love how positioning is so important. So, first of all, if you are attacking from a higher elevation, you get extra damage. So, for me, I am always trying to get above everybody else and just launch spells at them from above them. The second thing is, different things combo really well. So, you can cast, for example, a water spell and make the ground wet, and then you can cast an electricity spell, and anything standing in the water that you created is now electrified.
Mm-hmm. I just read about that on the hairdryer over there.
May I suggest not throwing the hairdryer in the bathtub?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Or apparently standing on the wet floor while using the hairdryer, which I don't think that can do it, but any false move after that could do it.
Possibly. So there's that sort of stuff. You can also do things like, what was one of them? You can throw poison, and then apparently poison is flammable. And so if you throw a fire into the poison, it will then cause a lot of explosions. So things like that. They're just a whole lot of fun. And I really like the combos and the little situational things like that that are just really a whole lot of fun. And, I'm just really enjoying it and really enjoying all of that. Also, it is very entertaining to make people feel really disturbed with the fact that my dandy skeleton boy can heal himself by absorbing blood.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. Like I said, he is a wonderful dandy skeleton boy. But yeah, that is the game that I've been playing lately and very much enjoying. No Disco Zoo for me.
No Disco Zoo for you?
No Disco Zoo for me.
Again.
How many times have you mentioned Disco Zoo?
Well, I'm trying to get higher than
Final Fantasy?
Final Fantasy 6. I have
7?
to... 7? I forget which one you have. Is it 7 that you talk about more often?
Excuse me. Final Fantasy 6, while an excellent game, did not receive a remake.
Mm-hmm.
Final Fantasy 6, technically, I think, is my favorite of the Final Fantasy storylines, but I do love 7 as well. I think I went through my ranking of Final Fantasies at one point, where I talked about how 6, 7, and 8 are my top ones. I do love 9 as well, but 6, 7, 8, 9 are probably my top ones. 10 is pretty good, definitely in the running for like the top 5. See, the problem is I just love them all. But if we're talking pure story, 6 is always right there at the top. Speaking of things you do on your phone, how are you doing on your book goal this year?
Yeah, I'm not doing very well on my book goal. You're just trying to rub that in. I fell way behind in cross-country season.
Well, you catch up.
Reading the book for today's podcast helped me catch up a little bit, although I did read this book now twice this year, but I read this book pretty quickly, so I still count it as reading.
Yeah.
It took time away from my other books I wanted to read, so...
Yeah. No, I just felt like,
rubbing it in. I don't think I'm going to make it. I'm 9 books behind, and there's not enough year left to do it.
It's only, November?
It's early November, but...
I think I have like 3 or 4 books I need to finish to reach my goal, but my goal was lower than yours.
I'm not going to make it.
You can always lower your goal.
I could always lower my goal. I think I'm not going to lower my goal at this stage of the year.
Oh, come on. You can lower your goal to meet your goal, right? That's how goals work.
No, I think I can just lower expectations for next year instead of new goal next year, I think is what I'll do. I mean, I should have seen this coming. I should have known that I'm not going to be listening to the amount of stuff I would during cross-country season.
Yeah.
I think now I'll be able to set a more reasonable goal next year.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, I'll take the book count I read this year and up it by a few and see if I can get to that goal. But yeah, I think it's going to be something more like high 30s, low 40s, I think will be my next year goal, because I don't think I'm going to get to the 52.
No. And again, you set your goal a lot higher than I set mine.
I mean, the question is, if I'm 9 books behind now, can I make it to 43, right? Stay 9 books behind. I don't know. I don't know if I can. I do have a bunch of books that I really want to read.
I'm looking forward to one of the things that I'm going to be doing over the next couple of months is, because I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling, hopefully I will get through some of the books that I have in my queue.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, the other thing that really, cross-country season is one of the factors. I think the other factor is there's a lot of podcasts that come out in September that I am interested in listening to.
Why? What happens in September?
New iPhones, new Apple stuff, new Macs, new things like that, new operating systems being released. So there's a lot of stuff that I need might be a strong word, very much desire to listen to in podcasting. So that pushes books to the side.
I get you. Yeah, I will be fair and say that I will probably reach my goal, but my goal was a lot lower. But I have been delayed ever since the hiking excursion that we went on. I have been slacking on a lot of things, including my reading and many other things. I have been basically a slacker trying to recover for far longer than I needed to recover. It's just been hard to get back into my habits of being a semi-productive human being. Sorry about that. I just wanted to...
That's fine. It's fine.
I wanted to
dig the knife in.
So, this week, for the weird things that we are forcing ourselves to eat, I know there's an official Taste of Japan.
Taste of Japan is what I put in the show notes.
Yeah. Well, this week we have two interesting things. So, first of all, we found a CC Lemon.
Mm-hmm. A CC Lemon melon mix.
Yeah, so CC Lemon melon mix.
Yeah, try to say that 5 times fast.
I'm not going to. Because I am going to fail.
Still 40 lemons in one bottle.
The power of 40 lemons with 1% fruit juice.
Yeah, 1% fruit juice. So that's a lot of lemons in 1%.
Mm-hmm.
Or, well, I guess it's
the vitamin C of 40 lemons.
Exactly. So they're fortifying the vitamin C.
Mm-hmm. So I am intrigued by this because this is going to be, I assume, lemon and melon.
Yeah, okay. So we've had melon drinks here. Do you think that this is going to be the fake melon flavor, the melon soda melon, or the true melon?
My money is on fake melon. Are you going to go for real melon?
I was thinking more real melon. I was thinking leaning toward real melon, but being somewhere in between.
I think it's going to be more the fake melon because I think that's going to go better with the lemon flavor.
Well, I agree with that because the sweetnesses match.
Mm-hmm. But if it is more like a melon, oh, that's going to be weird.
The question is, where does CC lemon go is what I was thinking. They try to be true. Well, do they try to be true to lemon flavor? Maybe not.
Well, I think there's only one way to
I
find
think we're going to have to find out.
Oh, no, that smells like a real melon. That smells like a real melon.
It does.
That tastes like a real melon.
Tastes like real melon. Tastes like real melon mixed with lemon.
The lemon is way too light for me.
Yeah. But I think the lemon makes the melon taste better.
I would agree with that sentiment.
Mm-hmm.
If we were evaluating it as a melon drink, I would say it succeeded. But if I'm evaluating it as a CC lemon drink, I would say it failed.
Mm-hmm. I think it ruined CC lemon.
It ruins CC lemon, but it improves melon. So the question is, which direction are we approaching this from? Is it ruining my CC lemon, or is it improving the melon?
I think that a real melon soda would not rank very high for me.
No. I think we had a couple of real melon sodas. When's the last real melon soda we had?
This is the fake one.
No, that's melon Kit Kats.
Oh, we didn't rank it back then.
Also, I thought I saw one down here. There's the green melon.
Oh, yeah. Band 5. Yeah, that was real melon, right?
Yeah, that was a real melon.
Yeah, I think a real melon would rank pretty low for me.
I mean, I ranked it as a 5, I think, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, and see, a CC lemon yuzu and honey, which I think was pretty good for us, we ranked as 7. CC lemon yogurt flavor ranked pretty low at 4.
Probably because it was an affront to CC lemon.
Oh, well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
I think it's 5. I think it just passes.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's 5, but here is my hedging.
Okay.
Because I got a hedge. Because you won't let me have my decimals.
Right. So you're going to make an argument somewhere in between. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course I'm going to make an argument somewhere in between because that's what people tune in for at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So the last real melon soda that we had, what was it called?
Mitsu Higa Green Melon.
Ah, yeah, the Higa Green Melon one. I gave that a 5. I would probably also give this a 5, but I would consider this better than that one for the mere fact that it has a kiss of lemon in it. Just a slight little lemon.
Looking now, I gave the Mitsu Higa Green Melon 6.
You might have been too generous.
Maybe I was too generous. I think I'm going to go with 5 on this one, too. I don't think this is greater than 5.
Yeah, I think this is a 5, but I do think that it is better than a straight melon drink.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely better than an overly sweetened green melon soda that we have here.
Have you ever tried the green melon soda that they actually turn into a cream soda? So it's like the bright green melon soda, but it's also a cream soda?
Yeah, well, the bright green one, yeah, that's the one that's in the soda machines, isn't it? I mean, that's in the drink bars?
Often.
Yeah, my daughters get that.
Yeah, I think when you mix it with a cream soda, it's not quite as
better.
bad.
Yeah, it's better when you have cream soda. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, 5.5.
5 ranked 2. All right, so then you brought...
Yeah, I found a bunch of really interesting Kit Kats, and I gave them all to Nate, and he probably hates me for them.
Well, this one will be interesting. You know, I go either way. Okay, so this is kudi or chestnut flavored.
Yes, so we have a chestnut Kit Kat.
And, you know, I can go either way on chestnut. Sometimes I think it's weird. At the same time, though, I've had some chestnuts from Korea that my mother-in-law, I think it's my mother-in-law makes. I'm not exactly sure how that comes. But anyway, I've had some traditional Korean cooked chestnuts that are pretty good. So
The chestnut flavor I am not opposed to. The texture of a real chestnut is usually something I have to get over.
yeah, I think that's probably where I am. Well, this is not going to be the texture of a real chestnut.
Well, it is probably going to be the texture of a Kit Kat.
Yes. So it might actually be okay.
And we'll see. We'll see. So, chestnut Kit Kat, here we go.
What color? It is the pale brown color.
The pale brown color.
All right, let's see. I don't taste the chestnut much.
I do.
It's like brown cinnamon
It's good.
or brown sugar Kit Kat.
Mm.
I think it's good too.
It's light. Yeah, I can taste the cinnamon.
Mm-hmm. The cinnamon seems kind of overpowering to me.
It is masking the chestnut flavor a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
It's good, but it tastes more like cinnamon than it does chestnut.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can taste the chestnut very slightly.
Mm-hmm. I taste it very slightly, but if it was a cinnamon Kit Kat or brown sugar, no cinnamon.
It tastes like a little bit of cinnamon, like
Mhm.
just a.
Yeah, if it was a cinnamon Kit Kat, I actually think it's pretty good because it would not be overbearing on the cinnamon.
It's good and it tastes good, but I don't think it doesn't deliver on the marketing.
It's not disappointing though either, though.
No, I like it. It just isn't what I expected from a chestnut Kit Kat.
No, I expected it to. Well, chestnuts are not terribly sweet, and this is still overly sweet again.
Wow.
It's not the adult sweetness.
Again, you think every Kit Kat is overly sweet. I actually like this.
I know. I think I like it enough for a 7. That's why we gave honeycomb. The thing is, at least I am. I'm struggling getting over my expectation compared to how much I actually like it. I actually like it. It's just not chestnut.
It's not chestnut, but I really like it. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm also gonna give it a 7.
That's why I'm thinking. Yeah, that's why I was thinking 7 because it's like no. I like this. I'm gonna rank it with the ones that I like.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna call this chestnut parentheses cinnamon.
Parentheses, not really.
Parentheses, they are tricking you.
Parentheses, it's all a lie.
There we go.
All right.
Yep. I'm gonna have a second one on that.
Oh yeah, me too. So this week, because we are going to be talking about a book where, let's face it, the main characters have a lot of downtime. A lot of time in which they need to fill hours. We thought about a simple question. When we have time on our hands, when we're available to do things that are free from work or responsibilities, how would we fill those hours? If we basically, like our main characters, couldn't sleep, how would we fill those hours that we couldn't sleep in?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, Nate,
You want to go first?
how would you fill the thousands and thousands of hours if you couldn't sleep?
I think one of the ways, well, I don't know if I would choose this first. I think I would hopefully choose some other things. But one of the ways I have seen myself fill some time when I'm resting or I want to not do much, especially if I don't want to do something digitally, is I like to do some logic puzzles. My mother used to receive Games Magazine growing up, and it's a logic puzzle kind of magazine where you fill in a bunch of stuff inside. It's quite fun. My mother would do it frequently, and she would let me do a few of the puzzles too, and that was fun. So I have a few, like I bought a huge Sudoku book a while back. I really like I don't know what they're called. I think they're called Pick-a-Picks. Pix-a-Picks. I don't know exactly what they're called, but they give some numbers on the rows and columns, and based on the numbers that are present in the rows and columns, there's a grid, and then you can fill in that grid with shading and dots, but using logic, you can figure out what the shading and dots need to be. So that's a fun one, or the shading in empty spaces. I use dots to mark that I know it's empty. That helps me. Another one that I like is, it has rows and columns, but this time it has names or places or things like that. And then there's a set of logic statements at the top, like Billy is taller than Jean. but Jean is shorter than, I don't know, Samantha or something like that. And then you use those things to determine who's the tallest, who's the second tallest, whether they were from Chicago or not, things like that. There was a bunch of those puzzles. So I like those kinds of logic. It's got the statements at the top, so then you want to figure out the order of height or where they're from or whatever the situation that they set up is. So I like those kinds of puzzles.
I've given those kind of puzzles to my students in logic class, the logic unit of apologetics.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I like those kinds of things. So I like filling those out when I have some spare time, which again, I think is why the logic of Disco Zoo rings true to me. So that's why I play that game. But yep, logic puzzles in general are things that I like to do.
Yeah. I actually have several really fun logic puzzles that I've given my students in the logic unit during apologetics class. It's fun seeing them work them out and finally figure out, it has to be this because this and this and this and this and this. Yeah, I agree. I do like those too.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had lots and lots of time on my hands and had nothing to do, let's face it, probably one of the main things that I would do, because I talk about it far more than I should, is I would probably play some games.
And you're talking video specifically.
Usually video games specifically, because you can play those solo very easily. Now, there are some solo board games that I do love. Shout out to the Seventh Continent.
Mm-hmm.
But video games are really easy to play by yourself and not needing to do a whole lot of setup, not needing a table that is 1 billion miles long, and of course, not needing other people, just in case you want to just kind of relax. For me, I have always loved games, especially video games, because for me, it's always been about the stories. I love the character development. I love stories. And for me, a lot of times, the games that I love the most are the ones that have stories that make me continue thinking about them ages past when I've played them. I talk about a lot of different types of games, ones that I found fun, ones that I have enjoyed. And I've talked about a lot of different kinds of games on my little game corner. But the ones that really stick with me, the ones that I think about in the wee hours of the morn, those are the ones that have really, really good stories. Stories that I will always think about. And that's why, for example, I said that Final Fantasy VI is always going to be my favorite Final Fantasy, because it's got a story that I always think about. It's got one of those great stories, some of the saddest character development that you can possibly think of. Seriously. There are a couple of characters that are just, get you right in the feels. Anyway, but most of the games that I really remember, the ones that I really enjoy, the ones that I care about, are the ones that have a great story. So when I think about things that I like to do when I have time on my hands, when I really can just relax and enjoy myself, it's getting involved in a great story many times in a game and many times in other ways.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, games does seem to fit your personality and your likes that I know of you.
Yep. It's why you will never hear me go, hey, I have this great game for Game Corner. It's called Call of Duty. Now, some of the Call of Duty games do have really good storylines, like Modern Warfare, but for the most part, the storyline isn't the reason that you play those games. In fact, it breaks my heart when people are like, oh yeah, I love that game. I've never played the story. What? Anyway.
Another thing that I do, and I've done this for a while, I did it when I took film pictures, and I've done it since I've bought digital cameras too, is I love organizing pictures. I used to make physical albums, physical picture albums, photo albums, and I enjoyed that, and I have a bunch that I still have them. Although about the time that my daughters were born, I ran out of time making physical picture albums.
Just happened to coincide with that?
Happened to coincide with that. I ran out of time. I find in my life there's a few things that I like to do repetitively. Few things. If it's something I'm doing repetitively, especially on a computer, I will find a way to program around it, generally speaking. But organizing photos on the computer is one thing that I can do repetitively. And when I did it with physical photos, I had a process. I had worked out what my process was, and then I had made tiny little checklists, and things work through this process. You take the photos, you get them printed, you organize them in such a way, because I was taking digital photos toward the end when I made this checklist, I would organize how I would print them, whether I would print them big, small, I'd pick sizes. I'd have dummy sizes that I would lay out on the page to see how it would look before I ordered them. So I had them all planned out, then I'd order them, and of course probably when I actually laid them out on the page it might have been slightly different, but it didn't really matter. But because the sizes were already chosen, there was only a few ways to lay it out anyway. So I had a fun time making physical books. Then, when I ran out of time making physical books, I had found that I could make digital ebooks. Well, you know this because I've shown you them a few times, trying to get the school to make digital yearbooks. I've used my digital photo ebooks as examples.
And I will say that your photo books are really well done, in my opinion.
Well, and one of the things I like about them is that they are easier to make. They're quicker to make. Because one of the reasons is, like I said, with the physical books, I would lay out dummies, then order the prints, then have to lay it out again and stick them all down. Nice thing about the photo books is you can pretty much lay them on the page right away and then they're set. I only have to do that part once. The part that takes the longest probably is going through the 1,000 pictures we took at Disney to select the really only 60 to 70 that I should put in a photo album before you get bored looking at them, which is probably even too many, but still,
Well, the first question is, which trip to Disney?
Yeah, exactly. One time I thought I was going to make a book that had all the Disney trips, and then I quickly realized that that's a mistake right there. Maybe at some point I could make a book that has all of the times we did a certain ride. That would be interesting. Like, here's all of the small world pictures we took over time. That might be interesting, but having a book that has all the Disney trips is a mistake.
I'm just imagining how thick that book would have to be.
I know, right? Especially even as an ebook, it'd be too much to process. Well, and actually there's a limit on ebooks. I think they have to be less than 2 gigabytes. No, they have to be less than 1 gigabyte. I think they have to be less than 1 gigabyte. So you can run into that pretty quickly, especially if you include live video type videos in the ebook or other videos in the ebook. So I have been able to keep my books under 1 gigabyte, no problem so far. But if I was to do something like that, and plus I think smaller ebooks are better anyway. So I've enjoyed that. For a while, I had stopped playing Disco Zoo. So the thing that takes the time, especially at the digital books, is choosing the photos, right? So if choosing the photos takes the time, so at one point I decided, well, if I'm going to be spending time on my phone in between things, instead of playing Disco Zoo, I should choose photos for the next ebook, because that's the thing that takes the time. And I can do that if I can find an app. I can do that anywhere. So I had tried a few apps, but I found iCloud Drive was actually the best option, where I could load the photos into iCloud Drive and then just go through and just start picking the best ones. At the time, I wasn't laying them out, but I was like, okay, these 3 photos need to go on a page, and these 3 photos need to go on a page, so they're going to go together. Or these 2 photos need to go on a page, or something like that. So I think I was paging out the pictures, but then the actual putting together of the book would go pretty quick. So I had done that a little bit, but then I had stopped. For whatever reason, it's fun and all, but it's harder to do on a phone just because it just takes time to click through things. I haven't tried it in the latest operating systems. I should try again, because organizing photos by file name or organizing photos by date was just hard. It seemed like the best app at the time, but I don't know if there's better apps now. Well, it seems like the best app if you're not going to pay for something like Lightroom or something like that. Like, I could have paid for Lightroom and been done with it, but I didn't really think I was doing it often enough to rationalize the expense. So it was the best app at the time, but I should probably try again because it was cumbersome, so I stopped doing it. So and then I went back to Disco Zoo. So maybe after I rewind in Disco Zoo again, I should go back to organizing photos for a little while longer. But the problem is time marches on, and I think the set of photos that I'm organizing now are from like 4 years ago, so maybe I should pick another set of photos to organize.
Well, I mean, it's either that or you keep organizing those photos, and then by the time you finish that, you'll get to the ones that at that point will be 4 years old.
Yeah, I know.
You'll always be 4 years behind.
Well, and it's definitely worth being behind a little bit, because I end up finding that, my daughters took some pictures that I want to stick into my photo library. So it's always worth being about 6 months behind, because that's about the time when I get to my daughter's photos. But I don't think I want to be 4 years behind. I think that rubs off on excitement. I almost wonder, for instance, it's almost been 6 months since we went to Universal Studios. That was a fairly memorable family experience. So I wonder if maybe I should start doing that set of photos if I start this up again. Something like that. Pick the big things. Pick like a family wedding or another memorable experience. Do those. Do the things that are big. And if I have time, I'll do some smaller events, birthday parties or whatever. Birthday party books would be kind of, I'm only picking from a set of 200 photos, so I can probably make a pretty small book pretty quickly, pretty easily. I did make a Toshimayan book one time because we went to Toshimayan, and that was a nice small book, a nice quick and easy thing to do. It was a semi-memorable experience, not as much as other things, but...
Well, next year, maybe you can make a Harry Potter
I know,
world.
a new... from the replacement of Toshimayan, the Harry Potter world. Maybe. So... I think Harry Potter World's going to be quite packed for a while, so I'm not sure it's going to be worth visiting.
What?
Japanese, they love their lines. So I don't really love waiting on lines.
I can queue with the best of them.
Yeah, I can queue. I just don't like to do it.
No, I don't like to do it either.
So, organizing photos. It's been a hobby that I've come and gone with. I still organize photos on my server, and that is something I still do in my spare time because my photos come onto my server, and then I just organize them by month. I have a script that does it basically for me automatically, and then after they're organized by month, I organize them into event, which is very quick. And that's very easy to do from my phone or whenever, so I do that still. But I would love to get back to taking those events and organize them into books again still. I figure when I retire, I'm going to be doing all of this. Probably not, but still, I like to think that I'm going to do all of that.
All right, so my second thing that I do on a regular basis when I have free time is I've mentioned several times that I like to write. And it's both a hobby and something that is kind of a goal of mine to continue writing and, hey, maybe one day actually get something published because I have been writing off and on for many, many years. I don't think I ever admitted this on the podcast, but way back when I did actually finish a novel, and it was bad. Or at least in my opinion now, from where I stand, I think it was bad. I did submit it to agents and things like that way back when, and hey, I got a variety of responses. Some were very encouraging, some were very helpful. All of them were not interested in selling the book.
Well, at least people read it.
Hey, but it could have used some work, and I continue writing, and I continue making stories. I have for years been making stories, been making characters. One of the things that is kind of hilarious is when I was cleaning up my apartment the other day, I came across my pile of notebooks that are just filled with various pieces of stories and characters and ideas and various things like that, just littered. I think I have taken up an entire bookshelf just with various notebooks that I have all wrapped up in that. So I, on a regular basis, will go to a family restaurant or other place and just spend the day writing. And it's something that I still love to do and I still do on a regular basis. And I continue working on it. And I do have goals for getting further along and, again, querying and sending stuff out. But, it is one of those goals that I continue working towards, continue dreaming about, and I hope for. Because I really do enjoy it, and it's something that I like doing to an extent that I could happily do it, and happily do it all day long.
You're nice.
So what I've said is, I play games because I like stories. I write stories because I like stories. Hey, guess what? I like stories. Just be glad I didn't talk about my books that I'm reading.
Yep.
Speaking of books we've been reading.
Yep, speaking of books we've been reading. I made you read a book, Ryan.
You did.
I read this at the beginning of this calendar year, I think.
And you know what? I'm going to, spoiler alert, it's a good book.
Good. This is called The Golem and the Jinni. It is by Helene Wecker. I first heard about it from The Incomparable, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think they talked about this book on The Incomparable, and then she had listened to that episode of the podcast and has then since been a guest on some of their podcasts. So I think you can hear her on a few of them here and there. But yeah, it is a very interesting book for me. So I said, I think you would like this, and I think because you're more into fantasy, you might even get more out of it. I don't think I said that to you, but I think you'll actually get more out of it than me. So I wanted to hear what you had to say about that. So yep, I told you to read it so that we could discuss it more.
And guess what? As I said, I enjoyed it. But for those of you who haven't read it, as I said last time, we're going to be moving our summaries into more of an elevator pitch, so I'm not ruining the entire story for those who haven't read it. So, if you haven't read it, here is my quick and dirty elevator pitch for what it's all about. The Golem and the Jinni is the story of immigrants. A man crosses the ocean to America with his new bride, a woman he had created from clay, a golem created using ancient magic. When he dies on the crossing, the newly awoken and now masterless golem tries to understand her new life while feeling and hearing the wishes of a whole city. Meanwhile, another man, while mending a pot, sets loose a genie, a being made of pure fire, who is trapped inside. The genie, trapped also in human form, tries to find a way to free him from his curse and find something to do. In New York City, these two non-human beings living among human beings, as different and as similar as can be, finally meet.
So yes, I think you should go read it.
Yeah, it's a great story. I highly recommend it. And it has a lot of really cool concepts that we'll hopefully talk about in a bit. And once you have read it, feel free to come back and join us. Though if you have already read it, feel free to listen on. So yeah, let's dive straight into the spoiler territory. So if you are continuing on, listen on at your own peril.
I have a few quick things here. Well, they might not be terribly quick. We might spend some time.
We might go on.
But I think one of the very interesting things in this book is the coexistence of the religions without judgment on any of them. I found that interesting, right? There's a little bit of discussion about it. The genie asks why you believe, but not much discussion. There's assumption that Hava is Jewish, even though she hasn't made any conscious decision on that.
But she seems to adopt the belief system of the rabbi who takes care of her,
which happened to have been the same religion as her master. I mean, interesting that she didn't walk into the Arabic neighborhood and become...
That being said, I think if I remember right, they talk about the fact that she ended up in this area because she heard people talking with the same language that
as her
she
master.
Remembered her master speaking.
Yep. So I think it was a nice breath of fresh air to see coexistence of religions without judgment from the people in them. It's just a nice thing.
Yeah. I guess the most judgmental that you get is the genie basically asking why one would believe in God.
Right.
And I think it's treated respectfully.
Even Michael's decision is treated respectfully by his uncle in the end. Maybe not up front, but in the end.
And so all decisions on like what to believe, how to believe, and how to live one's life is treated very respectfully. And I think that is something that I really did appreciate.
This was my first experience in lore of Golem and Jinni. I'm not counting Aladdin or things like that. It's definitely my first experience in lore of a golem and how golems work. And yes, it's again more my first official experience of genie-based mythology or fantasy fiction. So I think that was interesting. Because I think when I first read it, I had asked you some questions and they had all fallen in line with the mythos that this book portrayed.
Because it is the fact that, for example, I don't remember where I first heard of golems and things like that. But yeah, I think knowing loosely, so when they're talking about genies in this story, they're talking about what in some traditions you would more know as jinn or ifrits or beings of fire, those sort of beings. So dependent on the translation and where you come from and what other fantasy you've consumed, you might know the type of creature based on those sort of names.
Which he's called in this book too.
Yeah, well, he's called some of those, and he also refers to lesser jinn and lesser genies as like ifrits and things like that. But again, they all come from the same kind of root of these beings of fire. And then golems, generally, they are creatures who are anthropomorphic clay creatures, or referred to in Jewish folklore, many times where they'll have things like the name of God inscribed upon them, and that is the thing that brings them to life. And there's various other things that are described on how golems work. But this was actually a very interesting take on a golem, because it takes some of those things and then adds the fact that this golem was made in a darker and weirder way, because normally golems don't look human. And the beginning of this book, the golem's original master requests this weird guy, who comes back later, that the guy who is living out there, the guy who is viewed as
eccentric,
almost a mix of like a weird kind of witch doctor and apostate from normal Jewish traditions and things like that kind of level of person. So the original master goes and says, hey, I want you to make me a wife. And so this guy makes a golem, makes it in the shape of a woman. Apparently it sounds like they used certain things that were actual human parts, so possibly harvesting them from dead bodies, things like fingernails, hair, things like that. All of that is not normally in golem lore. But they took the normal ideas of the golem and then twisted it just enough to create Hava.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I liked learning about that a little bit more. I think the first time I read this book, I was caught on the no sleep thing. I think I was caught on that because I've always looked at having no sleep as something that I desire. If I didn't have to sleep, that'd be great.
You would get so much done if
so
you
much
didn't
more
have to
done
sleep.
if I didn't have to sleep. And so the fact that these beings that would just sit around wasting their time when not sleeping. Now, part of it is the fact that they're
trying to blend in.
Like once married, there's no way that she cannot fake sleep or not fake sleep some of the time. Yeah, and the fact, Hava can't go out. Of course she can't go out, at least at those time frames, and probably not as much even now too, but still, I was caught on that. I was like, man, these guys are wasting their opportunity. I think my opinion changed the second time through the book because I could finally focus on the growth of the characters. I could finally focus on, oh my goodness, these characters have really grown. Let's start with some of the smaller characters, but I think that finally I could see beyond the, oh my goodness, I want to be in a position where I don't have to sleep.
You would get so much done.
Right.
You could make it through an entire podcast without yawning.
Exactly. But the problem is, of course, if I was ever in that position, then I would just line up more things to do. So it's not really worth it, I think. Probably not. If I just gave more time, I would just use more time. Just like if I have more desk space, I will just make more mess. So no more desk space for me.
I thought you wanted as many flat surfaces in your office as possible.
Nope, I want fewer flat surfaces in my office. The more flat surfaces I have, the more things I put on them. Not allowed. So that was a big one for me.
I thought that was a really cool thing to think about. Because these beings aren't human, what is their natural process? Well, they don't need to sleep. A being of pure fire doesn't need to sleep. A golem, who is supposed to be a eternal sentinel in many stories, doesn't need to sleep. And so what do they do in trying to blend in? I thought it was a really cool thing for them to really think about. How do you try to hide that you don't need sleep, but also blend in? And what do you do with all that time?
I think one of the things I really enjoyed the second reading too, and I picked up on it the first time, I think, but as I started focusing more on the characters, the second reading, the interweaving of the plots from Sala, Mayer, Michael, Anna, all of the smaller characters really working together to form a great tapestry of a book, I think worked really well. Ice Cream Sala, he's got a great backstory, he's got a great reason, and then he's got a great thing he does at the end, right? Like everybody has an important role in the whole plot of the story, which I think would be fairly accurate, but I like that we're introduced to them, not in a way that's like, oh, this is a MacGuffin, here's a character that's going to come in very important later on in the story. No, they're introduced just as part of the scenery, but maybe I guess when you're listening to their backstory, you're like, okay, Sala's going to become important here. But at the same time, I think it was done very well, I think.
Yeah, I think it presented a community. As I said earlier in my quick summary of the story, it's about immigrants. And this is the story of all of these little immigrant communities and how they interact with each other, especially surrounding these two non-human beings.
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, Ice Cream Sala is important, but he is introduced because he is part of the community.
And Mayer's formula for a spell. You think, oh, he's really working, then, but then it still gets used in the end. You know, it's not just like, oh, it's all disappointing. It's not happening.
Yeah, I will say that the moment that he finished that out, I was like, oh, this is what is going to be the big thing. Again, the MacGuffin.
A catalyst.
The catalyst. The thing that they're all going to be aiming for or fighting over or doing something with.
Formula will be, yeah.
Yep. That's the moment that he finished it and then didn't get to pass it on to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that that was going to be the thing.
Crucial. Mm-hmm.
Although I thought the books that weren't returned were going to be more of a MacGuffin too.
Yes.
The ones that weren't returned to all the rabbis.
Right. Yes, you're right. I did think those were going to play a bigger part.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, another one of the great things about this one, especially in the interweaving plots, is Michael's story.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's terribly sad that he died.
Spoilers.
Well, it is the spoiler section.
Yeah, we did say that it's spoiler section.
But I think it was played well. Like, it fit the story. Yes, it's sad that he died. But it fit the story. I mean, again, I like the mental exercise of what would have happened next in his relationship with the Golem now that he discovered the truth.
I think the thing that broke my heart about that entire thing is he died doubting her.
Yes. There was no statement from him that said she is who she is.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we ever got him coming to acceptance of who she is.
Yeah, it was just this fear of her, this doubt of her, and that's the things that he was carrying as he died. And I think that's the thing that breaks my heart about his demise, was the fact that he has so much that was left unresolved in his own life and basically died in fear.
Right. Well, yes. I mean, I think I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, I guess maybe I'm reading into it, but I mean, it seemed like he was putting things together at the end.
Yeah, it seemed like he was putting things together, but I think...
But who knows, even if he was putting things together, what would he... I mean, we have not enough of his actions to judge what he would have done following.
He might have gotten to that point where he understood who she was and that he still cared for her and all of these things, but it felt like he had a lot that was left unresolved, and I wish that he had gotten a chance to resolve those. But no, Mr. Evil Man had to do bad things.
Yep.
To push the plot on.
So I think the second time reading through, I think I realized this the first time, but I wasn't able to codify it into some kind of words or something. But the polar opposites that are the Golem and the Jinni, I think is probably one of the best parts of the book. Seeing them play off each other and realizing their situations are different. They're, completely different ages. They come from different places. They're from different religions. The story that the Jinni learns is that actions matter. Be careful what you do. And the story that the Golem learns that actions matter. Get out and do something. Is great. Like they're learning the same thing
from a different angle.
And
I think for me, also, the thing that's really nice is I look at those two polar opposites, but then also see the fact that they are polar opposites, but they are also very similar. Like, to the point where, because they act differently, but they have this storyline that is interwoven together, even if they don't know it. I think it's the fact that they're so opposite, but their stories are so similar that, not to sound cheesy, but they almost fit together like a puzzle.
Yep, I think they do. So I think that was my new favorite thing reading second time through, is just not getting caught on the fact that they're not sleeping and they're wasting their time hemming and rehemming the same clothes. Not getting caught on that kind of stuff helped me enjoy the book more. in character growth, which I'm assuming that's part of the reason why you like. So I'm assuming you like the character growth.
Oh, yeah. I love the character growth. I really enjoyed the characters themselves and the choices they made and how they grew as people. And for me, I am wanting more. And I know there's a second book.
Yes.
I'm wanting more, but I also am a little afraid of more because there's the mix of they made some really good choices and the story was excellent. So I'm a little hopeful and afraid of where the story can go next.
Yes. I think, from what I've heard so far, it's good. So I don't really know. But will the sequel add to the excitement of the first book or detract from this excitement of the first book? Will it bring it down? Is it a Toy Story 2 or a Cinderella 2? Cinderella 2 is a low bar.
It is the fact that whenever there is a sequel, whenever there is a second book, I always worry that it's going to undercut some character growth in some way. You will remember my lovely rant about the people of Sparks in comparison to the City of Ember. It felt like a lot of the character growth from City of Ember was undercut in People of Sparks. That is my eternal fear for stories like this, especially when you have such amazing growth as characters.
Right.
I also, for me, I look at this and go, what is Hava going to do? Because again, spoilers, at the end, she agrees of her own free will to be the Golem of Joseph, who is the antagonist and the one who has caused so much of the problems of the story.
But is he the antagonist?
He's the antagonist. I would say he's the antagonist. I mean, he's the one who created Hava.
Yeah.
He is...
I guess he's the big bad they're fighting at the end.
He is the big bad they're fighting at the end. He is the reincarnation of
which is, that was a little silly. I think that was one of the things I was like, oh, really? Can't he just be another bad guy? It was just, that was a little bit silly.
You thought that was a bit silly, that he was the reincarnation? Basically, that every time that he was born, he would become a uber twisted version of whatever religion and power there was.
And is it more ridiculous than golems and genies walking around? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, again, it comes down to the fact of why he was in that boat, why he kept doing that.
Because it seemed like it was because he had worded the agreement in such a way that it was dependent upon the genie's death, not his death.
Mm-hmm. And so he was trapped in this cycle, in this loop, as long as the genie was still alive.
Yeah.
This man who has done all these terrible things, the Golem of her own free will enters into this to protect the life of somebody else. What does that mean for her as a being who had basically learned how to be independent, how to act for herself? What does that now mean? Because she seemed to still feel the push from him, even though he wasn't present anymore.
Present in the room, yeah. The wine.
Yeah.
Which is just a time-dilated request. Sorry. It'll sound like a whine because he's so slow. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I wanted to read this first before reading the next one, The Hidden Palace. So I think now that I'm done with this, we can press on to the next book.
Mm-hmm. I'm not planning on stopping anytime soon, so let's keep on reading.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll keep reading books.
Yep, because guess what? We've been on a little bit of a book pattern lately, and I'm good with that. I like reading. What can I say? I like stories.
You don't say. You haven't said so already a few times on this podcast. So, Ryan, what do you have for me next week?
Next week, I thought we should finally finish up the journey that is the Mistborn series.
You just finished. It's not that I'm very far behind you.
No.
Because you just read the last book too, right?
Mm-hmm. So, the final book of Era 2 of Mistborn has just come out just a couple of months ago. And so I think, Nate, I'm going to have you read a timely book. So come and join me as we finish up the entire Era 2 of Mistborn.
That's book 4 of Era 2 of Mistborn, The Lost Metal.
The 7th Mistborn book.
The 7th Mistborn book.
I'll have read all of those pages. I will have finally finished all of the pages.
Yes, and then I can start you on a new series.
So we hope you found something nice about this hill that we were willing to die on, and we appreciate all of our listeners coming along on this journey with us. And if you ever thought to yourself, hey, I really like these guys, I just wish that there was some way, some mysterious way that I could support them. Well, know that you can. Visit myhilltodieon.com/members for more details. But what does it mean to be a member? Well, for the low price of $2 a month or $15 a year, you can help support this podcast. And by doing so, you'll get access to the members-only podcast, Not My Hill, where we'll discuss things that are, well, not my hill to die on. Things that we think there's somebody else's hill to die on. We have strong feelings about them, but definitely not hills that we'd be willing to die on. In addition, you also get access to the suggestion form where you can make suggestions on our Listener Hill episodes where we will watch, read, or climb up a hill that you're willing to die on, and we'll talk all about it. But know that the conversation doesn't have to end here. The discussion can continue with us through Reddit on the subreddit My Hill to Die On, or you can reach us by email, which is, to no one's surprise, myhilltodieon@gmail.com. And finally, we upload all of our episodes to our YouTube channel, which is also named, say it with me now, folks, My Hill to Die On. I was just going to talk about Divinity Original Sin 2.
Okay.
I don't think I've talked about this one. I don't think so.
Do you want me to look it up?
Yeah, please.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Sorry. Now you want to yawn.
No, it's okay. Divinity Original Sin.
Oh, I didn't talk about number 2.
Not number 2.
And was this
This is number 1.
and Divinity Original Sin? Which episode was it in?
It's coming up still. We're not done loading the page.
Wow, that is taking some time.
It's halfway through this SVG. It hasn't loaded the Japan portion of the SVG in yet. This is very slow internet here in this hotel.
Wow.
There we go. 21. Star Trek.
Did I talk about it as the game corner? Or did I just mention it somewhere? Oh, yeah.
Is it before the official Game Corner?
That was before official game corner, I think.
21. That we haven't had Game Corner? Oh, it was just Ryan playing back then. So you listed a few things.
Okay. Well, let me tell you about Divinity Original Sin 2.
This is going to be harder because we have to have hands.
Yeah. So
Don't be crinkling while we pick them up.
well, that is the nice thing, perhaps, is we won't be sitting here going,
After this, we should probably stop and go to bed.
what? Sleep?
It's been an hour.
Who sleeps?
It's been an hour, and we at least got 35 minutes of good stuff in there.
Maybe 40.
The other 20 minutes I was talking. Sorry. About Disco Zoo.
You were not talking about Disco Zoo for 20 minutes. I think that was good. That is a good Kit Kat, though.
That is a good Kit Kat, huh? Just not chestnut.
Not chestnut, but it's a good Kit Kat. To be continued?
To be continued. Mm-hmm.
See, this is the problem. I shifted to a new seat, so I'm going to move to the correct seat so that I have a good shoulder mount, or elbow mount.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right, yeah. A solid elbow. Solid elbow positioning system.
Yep. That way, it's not like me moving my mic all the time.
Here you go, Ryan. I have a logic puzzle for you.
Okay.
Take a number. Any number, really, but a smaller number probably makes things easier later.
Mm-hmm.
Multiply it by 6.
By 6?
Mm-hmm.
You're making me do maths.
This is why a smaller number would be better. If you want to pick a new number, it's fine.
Okay, multiply it by 6.
Okay, divide it by 2.
Sorry, I'm just making sure. All right.
Now multiply it by 3.
Okay.
Now take each digit that you've ended up with,
Uh-huh.
add them together.
Uh-huh.
The answer is 9.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Huh. I'm trying to track back why.
The reason is because I basically told you to take your original number and multiply it by 9. I just did it with a bunch of other steps in between.
Mm-hmm.
And when you take a number that is any multiple of 9, if you add its digits together, always add up to 9.
Oh.
And if it adds up to 18 or something like that, then you take 8, I guess what I should have asked you is when you add up the digits, did it add up to something, a 2-digit number? And if it still added up to something that's more than you add those numbers, it'll always add up to 9.
Yeah, you're just lucky I chose 7 or some.
Exactly. A small number is better. That's why I started with multiply by 6. So multiply by 6 divided by 2 just means you multiply by 3.
Unfortunately, then I remembered how hard 7s are to multiply.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, wait, 7. Why did I choose 7? Oh, okay.
So yep. There's a nice logic problem for you. So that always translates to 9. But again, I basically told you to pick a number and multiply it by 9 and then add the digits. I just went to 6 divided by 2 is 3, and then multiply by 3 again, which brings it to 9. So anyway, yep, there you go.
There you go. And that's math's logic.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a bit of past history and knowledge from other fantasy sources about certain, what can I say? I'm pretty well versed in various fantastical creatures and where to find them.
Huh?
No, I'm just kidding.
No, those are only beasts.
Yeah, and then we can cut that joke. That's a really bad, really bad joke.
We'll put it at the end. 2 1-hour ones, might be a little bit short at it. I mean, we did pretty well.
No,
both times.
I think most of it
It's going to be usable.
is usable. I mean,
Either in the main thing or as a comedy bit at the end.
yeah. Based on everything we did, I think it'll still end up being somewhere around an hour 20, hour 30.
At least an hour 15.
Yeah.
No shorter than that.
Yeah, no.
All right, stopping.
Stopping.